Hi, I'm Adam Kafitz, and I'm a psychologist at Bedford Couples and Family Therapy. I'd like to follow up on my previous video about the importance of parents' own self-regulation and managing our own emotional responses so that we can be really good regulating, modeling tools for our kids so that our kids can then start to develop emotion regulation skills simply by watching us. Are you a parent who's ever been triggered by your kid? Have you ever been really mad because you've asked them to go upstairs 12 times? Have you ever been really frustrated because you tell them that it's bedtime and they just ask to stay up for another 20 minutes? Have you ever felt really sad when you ask them to hang out and they're older and they're like, nah, I'd rather hang out with my friends? You know? Have you ever noticed that they get really excited about some new movie coming out and you start to want to just bring them down because they're too loud? We get triggered as parents because our kids have big emotions, and those trigger the emotions in us. And sometimes, as I talked about before, we don't always have the best emotional responses towards our kids. It's totally normal and natural. I spoke of some previous things that parents can do in past videos, like paying attention to how your body actually feels inside. And I'd like to take it a step further with one of my favorite tools that I like to give to parents that I work with when they are not maybe modeling the best emotion responses for their kids because they're triggered and because maybe they didn't learn how. The name of this tool is called the Process of Emotional Self-Exploration, and it was developed by Dr. Adele LaFrance. Dr. LaFrance has a wonderful guided exercise that's posted on the internet that you can search up and use. It's free and it's a wonderful thing that we can use and practice a lot of the times that we get triggered. This tool can be used as a self-reflective tool after the fact, after we maybe yelled at our kid, threw out a quick punishment that we, upon reflection, thought wasn't so helpful, or shut down an emotion that our kid was having. Maybe not feeling so great about, this is a great time that we can pull this tool out. This is a tool that when we use over and over again, we're really working on our own skill of emotion regulation. The point of this tool is to recognize that when we're triggered, it's likely there's an old wound from growing up and it gets graded on by whatever is happening with our kids. The tool starts off by just making a commitment that you actually want to have a look at it. We're not trying to judge or shame ourselves, but we're just saying, I punted that one. That wasn't a great response. Let me have a look at what was going on. And then there are a whole list of statements that we want to try to connect to. And that's the reason why we were so triggered by our kids. An example of these statements could be, I felt powerless. I felt excluded. I felt judged. I felt like the bad guy. I felt manipulated. I felt disrespected. I felt controlled. I felt like I couldn't speak up. How many times do any of these statements pop up in our minds as we're working to parent our kids? Odds are they're there if we look inward, and that's what this tool does. The next step is once we've identified the statement that triggered us, we try to remember an early childhood memory from about the age of 5 to 12, where that triggering statement actually happened in a childhood memory that we have. It can often be hard to find childhood memories. Maybe we've blocked them out or don't remember. But if we really sink in and allow that triggering statement to kind of just be there, oftentimes a memory can pop up. Now, the memory that we have as a kid doesn't have to directly connect to the situation that triggered us with our kids. Once we've identified our own childhood memory, we want to pay attention to all the details of that memory. Who we were with, what we were doing, what was said, what wasn't said, and really paying attention to how we actually felt. Did we feel scared or sad or mad? Did anybody help us with that? Did anybody support us with that? What was actually happening? After we make that connection, the next step is to pay attention to what our needs were in that moment. Oftentimes, when we're kids and we don't learn great tools to manage, it's because we weren't taught to deal with anger, or we weren't taught to deal with sadness, or to set a boundary. So, what we're doing now is paying attention to what we needed that we didn't get. Did we need validation? Did we need support? Did we need a hug? Did we need somebody to stand up for us on our behalf? Someone to set a boundary or a limit? And then once we identify that, we take some time in our imagination to recall that child self that didn't get its needs met. And then we give the child that need. We imagine our child self and we start speaking to it. We start validating its feelings, give it a hug, or tell him that we've got his back or her back. And really pay attention to what happens in your body as you actually say those things to yourself. The hope of using this tool is that the more often we can use it after the fact, the greater ability we'll have to recognize that we're triggered in the moment with our kids, which means we may not give the healthiest emotional response, because oftentimes when we're triggered, we're responding with old childhood wounds. I'm not saying that we are children, but we might give responses as though a child would respond, because that's actually what's probably happening. It's not a judgment. So when we say, you're acting like a child, that's not helpful to say judgmentally, but it would be more accurate to say, I'm probably acting as though I did when I was a kid because I didn't actually have the tools to be able to manage the situation. As we get better at using this tool, we can build the capacity to do it in the moment. If our child is yelling at us, screaming at us because we set a limit, telling us that we're horrible because we took away their tablet, we can stand in the pocket. We can remember what that triggering statement was for us, know what our feelings are, and use some tools to calm ourselves, stay grounded and present. And the better we can do that, the more regulated response we can give to our kids, following through on a limit, holding through a limit with love, hugging our kid because they need our support, even though we're really angry at them. We can start to give a response that might be more helpful. So I hope that you check the tool out by Dr. LaFrance. It's really, really great tool. I've been using it a lot, and I hope that you find it helpful.